The siren silence was louder than any scream. Officer Scarlet Vance sat in her patrol car like a coiled spring, her eyes fixed on a woman crossing Viridia Avenue. She wore a deep sapphire dress, black sunglasses, and the kind of quiet pride that set Scarlet's nerves on fire. Her skin was dark, her back straight, and her pace unhurried. Scarlet's grip on the steering wheel whitened her knuckles. Beside her, rookie Officer Miller said nothing. He'd been riding with her for weeks now and knew when silence was the safest choice. "See her?" Scarlet said, her voice acidic. "Look at her, like she owns the damn street." Miller didn't answer. Without warning, Scarlet swung the car across traffic and braked inches from the woman. "Stay here," she ordered, stepping out. Her hand hovered over her holstered gun. The woman stopped. Calm, unafraid. She didn't retreat or ask questions. She simply waited. Scarlet approached like a hunter. "What exactly are you doing here, ma'am?" Her tone dripped with contempt. The woman responded, level and composed. "Just walking." Scarlet's jaw twitched. That voice, it was too calm, too sure. "This area isn't safe," she lied. "We've had reports." "Suspicious activity?" the woman asked. "Don't question me. Show some ID." "Now." "I haven't done anything wrong." Scarlet stepped closer, pulled her pistol, and aimed it squarely at the woman's chest. "I said show me ID. Hands up. Now." Miller jumped out of the car. "Scarlet, what the hell?" "Stay back," she snapped. The woman still didn't flinch. She raised her hands slowly, showing no fear, no panic. "Get on your knees," Scarlet barked. Still no reaction. Just silence. It was unbearable. Scarlet shouted louder. "Did you hear me? I said get down." And slowly, the woman obeyed. Gracefully. Not in fear, but with dignity, like she'd done this before. Not as submission, but as strategy. Scarlet saw it, and it burned her. "You think you're better than me, don't you?" Scarlet hissed. "But you're just like the rest. Just another arrogant carbon-colored woman who needs to learn her place." The woman said nothing. Scarlet raised her gun higher. "What are you? A doctor? A congresswoman? Who do you think you are?" A flash of gold dropped from the woman's coat. It clinked against the pavement. Scarlet froze. "A badge." She squinted. "United States Federal Court. District Judge. Federal authority." Her face paled. She stepped back, stammering. I didn't know." The woman lifted her sunglasses. Her eyes were like stone. "That," she said calmly, "is the problem." Scarlet backed away, trembling, and fled to the car. Miller stared at her. "What did you just do?" Scarlet didn't respond. She started the engine, hands shaking. Behind them, the judge stood, dusted off her dress, and walked away. Not to her chambers, but to a quiet cafe nearby. She ordered a black coffee and pulled out her phone. "Judicial Conduct Office," a voice answered. "I'd like to file an anonymous complaint," she said. "Officer Scarlet Vance. Badge 987654. "What's the nature of the complaint?" "Abuse of authority. Firearm threat. Excessive force. Intimidation of a federal official." "Do you have proof, ma'am?" The judge smiled faintly. "Not yet, but this officer has a history. Look at her reports." That night, in her home in Olympus Heights, she opened a folder labeled Vance_incidents. There were names, cases, complaints that had vanished. A pattern, race, power, suppression. She began to type. July 15th, 12:48 p.m. Officer Vance aimed her weapon at my head without cause. Forced me to kneel. Verbally abused me. Threatened my life. She paused, her fingers steady. Meanwhile, Scarlet sat in her patrol car, the engine idling. She found an envelope on her dashboard. No name. Inside, her internal disciplinary file. At the top, internal review pending. Officer Vance, badge 987654. Total complaints, 11. 9 involving black individuals. She looked around, suddenly unsure of her surroundings. Who had placed it there? She checked the rearview mirror. No one. And yet, she felt hunted. Later that day, she passed 2 young black men laughing on the sidewalk. Their joy irritated her. "Used to know their place," she muttered. "Now they walk around like kings." Her grip on the wheel tightened. Arrogant, loud, entitled, and now they're the ones calling the shots? Her voice trembled with venom. The world's upside down. But deep down, beneath the rage, something darker stirred. Fear. Fear of what was coming. Because this time, it wasn't just another complaint. This time, she had pulled a gun on a federal judge, and the wheels of justice were already turning. Damn it! Scarlet Vance slammed her palm against the dashboard, the echo sharp in the quiet patrol car. It's all that woman's fault. I should have finished her when I had the chance. Day 4. She found a letter in her locker, internal affairs. A formal request for a conduct review. It didn't say what the review was about, but Scarlet knew. And the most terrifying part? The judge hadn't even filed a formal complaint yet. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. She stuffed the letter back in her locker, staring at her own reflection in the changing room mirror. Her skin looked gray, her eyes rimmed with red, sweat trickling down her brow. She barely recognized herself anymore. The confident officer who once strutted through the station was gone. In her place was a woman unraveling. "I hate you," she whispered, teeth clenched tight. "I hate you with everything I've got, you disgusting woman." She said it to the image of Judge Eleanor Hayes in her mind, poised, calm, unbreakable. And the most disturbing truth was this: she couldn't stop hating her, because that woman had shown her something she'd buried deep. Who she really was. By the time the trial began, Federal Courtroom 6B was tense with expectation. The ceiling lights beamed down like interrogation lamps, reflecting off the cold marble. And there, at the bench, stood Judge Hayes, robed in black, her hands clasped, her expression unreadable. She didn't need to raise her voice. Her silence was authority enough. "This court is now in session," she declared. Case 21745, United States versus Scarlet Vance. Scarlet sat in the defendant's box, her police uniform replaced with a wrinkled, off-the-rack suit. No badge, no shield, just a defendant. The federal prosecutor wasted no time. "We are here to examine a pattern of misconduct. Abuse of power, racial discrimination, threats of violence, and a targeted assault against not only a civilian but a federal judge." Scarlet flinched when she heard her name spoken in that context. Eleanor Hayes. It no longer sounded like a judge. It sounded like a sentence. 3 days, followed 3 days of humiliation. 11 complaints, ignored or buried. 7 black victims. 2 Latino women. 1 teenage boy dead during a suspicious stop. 3 security cams disconnected. Her union rep tried to object, but even he looked resigned. The evidence was overwhelming. And then came the video that a bystander had filmed the entire encounter from a nearby apartment. No editing, no commentary, just raw footage. Scarlet shouting slurs, forcing the judge to kneel, holding a gun to her forehead. The courtroom was silent. Then Judge Hayes rose. The entire room stood with her. She spoke clearly, without emotion, every syllable like a nail. "I've served this country with impartiality," she began. "But on July 13th, I was stripped of identity. I was not seen as a judge, nor a woman. I was seen as a threat because I dared to walk down the street while black." She looked at Scarlet now, directly, calmly. "This officer pulled a gun on me. She didn't ask who I was. She assumed I was no one. She made me kneel, not to enforce law, but to enforce her hatred." The judge paused. "This court does not seek revenge. It seeks truth. It seeks correction. Because justice is not something we hold. It is something we must live." Her gaze didn't waver. I never needed to show her my badge. She needed to remember her humanity. The jury didn't need long. Guilty on all counts. The sentence was swift and absolute. Immediate termination of employment. Loss of pension and benefits. Lifetime ban from any public office. 17 months in federal prison for aggravated abuse of power and racial targeting. 1 year of mandatory re-education on hate crime prevention. Scarlet didn't weep, didn't scream. She just bowed her head. Hollow. Everything she had used to define herself, uniform, badge, control, was gone. What remained was only the truth she could never silence. Outside, Judge Hayes exited quietly. She declined all questions, ignored the flashing cameras. She entered her car, closed the door, and leaned back. She wasn't smiling. This wasn't about victory. It was about peace. The kind that comes when justice, after being bent so long, finally stands upright. And in that moment, it wasn't Scarlet Vance who had made a woman kneel. That it was justice that had made hate fall to its knees.